government, as we've been saying all day today, is expected to confirm a bit later on that over 50s will be given the booster jab or offered the jab this autumn. And that comes, of course, after ministers confirmed that 12 to 15-year-olds in England are going to be offered a single jab at school from next week.
Joining us now, Vaccines Minister Nadhim Zahawi. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
Morning.
Let's talk about this 12 to 15-year-old dilemma for parents. The advice from the Chief Medical Officer is very clear, recommended that that age group get it. But the parents of those children will have heard the JCVI not long ago saying that they weren't recommending a mass rollout, that they were going to leave it to the Chief Medical Officers because there were other considerations and the health benefit was only marginal. So how did we get from a marginal health benefit to you should have the jab?
It's a really important question. Can I just say before I start, I thought that Paul Merson interview was just the most powerful thing I've watched on television. And thank you, Paul, and thank you for obviously facilitating it. So the JCVI looked at this because we've got data from America and data from Israel who've been vaccinating healthy 12 to 15-year-olds for a while now. They had already recommended that we vaccinate the vulnerable 12 to 15-year-olds, so we were doing that already. When they looked at healthy 12 to 15-year-olds, they said it is marginally more beneficial to get the vaccine than not to get the vaccine, but not enough to recommend a universal vaccination program because they were looking at the narrow health qualifications that they have. They recommended that the chief medical officers for England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland look at the wider health benefits for 12 to 15-year-olds. So things like mental health benefits of being vaccinated. So the chief medical officers consulted with the Royal College of Paediatrics, the Royal College of GPs, the JCVI were in the room. And yesterday, they came back and advised us that a single dose of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine should be offered to healthy 12 to 15-year-olds through the school-age immunization system, which has been vaccinating 12 to 15-year-olds for many, many decades with other vaccines, so very well versed and very well equipped to do this.
Yeah, okay. But sorry, you've just given another reason, which was the mental health effects that a broader vaccination programme might have on this group. Earlier today, we were talking about the fact that there is a higher risk to this age group of myocarditis or heart problems in those children who get COVID than the associated problems if they have the jab. And I wonder whether that isn't the balance that these parents have to make.
So I think the important thing, as we have done throughout this vaccination deployment program back in December of last year, 8th of December, when we launched with the first vaccine, the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, the 4th of January with AstraZeneca, is to make the information available. It is my duty to follow the chief medical officer's advice and make that information available to say, look, they've looked at this and they've recommended that your child, your 12 to 15-year-old, should have one dose. The school-age immunization system will now basically do that. So the clinicians will share that information with parents through physical leaflets, through online.
You're here on a breakfast television programme. You can share information with parents right now. Is my child safer from any risk to their health if they get the jab compared to any risk if they don't? I mean, that's the bottom line, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And look, I've got children, they're slightly older and one younger than 12. But by looking at the information, they're marginally better off being vaccinated on clinical reasons. According to the chief medical officers, rightly so, when they looked at mental health, on disruption to education, they think that we should recommend a universal offer. That's what they've done. They've recommended that. We've accepted their recommendation. And that's what we're going to move forward with. But we shouldn't stigmatize any parent who says, you know what, maybe I don't want my child vaccinated. And some parents will say, no, I do want my child vaccinated because it's the right thing to do.
But just setting aside the broader social good for this decision, which Chris Whitty made very clear yesterday, just really boiling it down to the essentials. I just want you to confirm this. What you're saying is, and this follows on from Susanna's question, it is obviously safer to have your child vaccinated once against COVID than leaving it open to getting COVID, because the risks to that child if they get COVID are much higher than if they've had the vaccination. It's as simple an equation as that.
That's right. So the JCVI looked at the data from the US on a single jab and then waited. We didn't rush ahead with this. We waited for data on the second jab. Really important, Richard, just to stress what the chief medical officers did is not to look at the greater social good. It was to look at the impact on the 12 to 15-year-old.
Yes.
That was really important, i.e. mental health impact, school disruption impact. Yeah. And on balance, they've recommended that we offer the vaccine, and consent forms will go out either physically to parents on paper copy for them to sign, or electronically for them to sign.
Okay.
And return.
Okay. And if it comes to the schoolroom where those children are going to get vaccinated, and a parent has said either yes, I want them jabbed, or no, I don't, and the child goes into that room and has a different opinion, whose opinion wins?
It's a really important question. So the school-age immunisation programme has been doing this for years. We haven't created a new system for COVID. On the very rare occasion, so parental consent is always sought. On the very rare occasion where there's a difference of opinion, so the parent says, no, I don't want my child vaccinated, and the child says, no, you know what, I want the vaccine. Yeah. The first thing the clinician does, not the teacher, we don't want the teachers to be in the middle of this, the clinician then brings the parent and the child together to try and reach consent. If they can't reach consent and the child still wants to be vaccinated, the clinician, if they deem that child to be competent to make that decision with all the information available to them, then the child will be able to have the vaccine. Well, that's a very rare occasion.
One final point that there's no time for you to come back on, but it's worth making. We opened the show with this extraordinary statistic from the Office for National Statistics, which must have gladdened your heart with your professional hat on this morning. Only 59 fully vaccinated people without serious health conditions died from COVID, out of more than 50,000 deaths in England this year. 59 out of 50,000. Boy, that's an argument for vaccination, is it not? Yes and no. Yes or no?
Totally. Yeah, and I'm grateful to you both for everything you've done throughout the vaccination programme to really just set out the information in an open, honest, and non-biased way.
Well, you can't argue with statistics like that. Thank you very much for joining us.
Nadhim Zahawi, thank you. We asked you on Twitter, if you have a 12 to 15-year-old, are you happy for them to receive the COVID vaccine? 55% said yes, 45% said no.
Not convinced then.
It's got a little bit closer, actually.
It's actually got closer since the debate.